The last stand at Meridian Station. The emergency klaxons of Meridian Station screamed across the asteroid mining facility like wounded animals. Admiral Zara Keth of the Zentari Federation pressed her four-fingered hands against the observation decks reinforced glass, watching the distant flashes of light that marked another Allied fleet's destruction. In 3 days, maybe 4 if they were lucky, the Vex Collective would arrive at their doorstep. Admiral General Vorthak's gravelly voice crackled through her neural implant. The Craxi warrior's tone carried the weight of 100 defeats. Long-range sensors confirm it. The Tau Ceti defense grid has fallen. We're the last major stronghold between the Vex and the core worlds. Zara's scales shifted from their usual blue to a worried purple. The Vex Collective had swept through 90% of known space in less than 2 years. Their quantum disruption technology rendering most defensive systems useless. Their ships could phase through shields, their weapons adapted instantly to any armor, and their tactical algorithms predicted every conventional strategy with terrifying accuracy. "How many ships do we have left?" she asked, though she already knew the answer would be insufficient. 47 operational vessels, Vorthok replied. Mix of Zentari cruisers, Craxi destroyers, and some civilian freighters we've armed. Against their projected force of over 300 Vex capital ships. Admiral, perhaps we should consider evacuation protocols. Zara's tail lashed once, a sign of frustrated determination. No, if Meridian falls, they'll have a clear path. To Earth, Centauri Prime, and New Craxus. 20 billion souls counting on us to buy them time. We make our stand here. The conversation was interrupted by an unfamiliar voice crackling through the station's communication array. The accent was strange, the rhythm of speech unlike any species in the Alliance database. Meridian Station, this is Captain Marcus Harrison, of the mercenary vessel Iron Wolf, requesting permission to dock. We heard you folks could use some help. Vorthek's mandibles clicked in confusion. Unknown vessel, identify your species and origin. Our records show no ship by that designation. A rough laugh came through the speakers. Species, human, origin. Third rock from Sol. And before you start citing regulations about quarantine zones, let's just say we've been bending some rules lately. Zara's eyes widened. Humans, the species that had been confined to their home system for over 50 years after their world wars had convinced the galaxy they were too dangerous for interstellar civilization. But intelligence reports suggested they'd been quietly developing technology far beyond what the Alliance had imagined. Captain Harrison Zara spoke into her communicator. This system is under imminent threat from Vex forces. We cannot guarantee your safety, Admiral. With respect, safety is exactly why we're here. The Vex won't stop at the Alliance. Earth's next on their list, and we humans have a saying about nipping problems in the bud. On the main display, a ship appeared that defied conventional design principles. Where Alliance vessels were sleek and symmetrical, this craft looked like it had been assembled from spare parts by someone with more creativity than resources. Weapon systems jutted from unexpected angles, armor plating appeared to be layered in random patterns, and the engine signatures were unlike anything in their databases. Permission granted, Iron Wolf. Bay 7 is open. An hour later, Admiral Zara found herself face to face with the first humans she'd ever met. Captain Marcus Harrison was shorter than most species in the Alliance, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. His armor bore scars from countless battles, and he moved with a confidence that spoke of someone accustomed to impossible odds. Beside him stood Dr. Elena Vasquez, whose gentle appearance masked a mind that worked faster than most Alliance computers. The third human, Sergeant Jake Collins, appeared to be made entirely of muscle and attitude, his weapon collection impressive even by Craxi standards. "So," Harrison said without preamble, studying the tactical display showing their defensive positions, "the Vex use quantum prediction algorithms to counter any strategy before you can implement it. Their weapons adapt to your defenses in real time, and their numbers are roughly 7-1 against you." "Correct," General Vorthok growled, "which is why evacuation seems prudent." Harrison grinned, an expression that somehow managed to be both reassuring and slightly unsettling. "General, you're thinking like a computer, trying to find the logical solution to an impossible problem. The Vex have spent centuries perfecting this approach, which means they're probably very, very good at it." "And your point, Captain?" Zara asked. "My point is that humans don't think like computers. We're gloriously, beautifully illogical. We make decisions based on hunches, emotions, and sheer stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Dr. Vasquez here has been analyzing your battle reports during our approach." Elena, the human scientist, stepped forward, her eyes bright with excitement. "The Vex quantum prediction systems are incredibly sophisticated, but they have one critical flaw. They're designed to predict rational behavior. Every species in the Alliance follows logical, tactical doctrine, which makes you predictable. But humans, ... we specialize in the impossible." Vorthok's mandibles clicked skeptically. "You propose defeating superior technology with irrationality." "Not irrationality," Harrison corrected. "Adaptability, improvisation, the willingness to try. Something that shouldn't work but might anyway. The Vex have conquered the galaxy by being perfect. We're going to beat them by being perfectly imperfect." Over the next 18 hours, as long-range sensors tracked the approaching Vex fleet, something remarkable happened aboard Meridian Station. The humans didn't try to fix the Alliance's defensive systems. Instead, they began systematically breaking them in controlled ways. Dr. Vasquez worked with Zentari engineers to introduce random fluctuations into shield harmonics. Sergeant Collins taught Craxi warriors how to modify their weapons for unpredictable firing patterns. Captain Harrison sat with Admiral Zara and General Vorthok, showing them how to turn military doctrine on its head. Traditional flanking maneuvers become frontal assaults, Harrison explained, moving holographic ship models around the tactical display. Retreat when you should advance. Attack when you should defend. Make every decision the opposite of what any sane commander would do. "This is madness," Vorthok protested. "You're asking us to abandon centuries of proven strategy." "I'm asking you to think like a human," Harrison replied. "And humans have been surviving impossible odds since we first walked upright on a planet that spent every day trying to kill us." When the Vex fleet finally arrived, Admiral Zara was ready with the most insane battle plan in galactic history. As enemy ships moved into their predicted positions for a standard engagement, she gave the order that would either save them all or destroy them faster than any conventional defeat. "All ships," she broadcast, her voice steady despite the fear, an excitement churning in her stomach, "implement chaos protocol. Random dispersal pattern. Ignore tactical formation. And remember, if it makes sense, don't do it." The Alliance fleet scattered like startled fish, each ship following its own seemingly random path. Vex quantum computers, designed to predict logical movement, began generating error messages as their targets refused to behave rationally. The Iron Wolf led the charge, its patchwork appearance suddenly making sense as hidden weapon systems revealed themselves in configurations that violated every principle of ship design. Harrison's voice crackled across all frequencies. Listen up, everyone. Today we show the galaxy what happens when humans get creative. Iron Wolves, engage. The first engagement was chaos in the purest sense. Alliance ships fired at targets they shouldn't have been able to hit, using weapon combinations that shouldn't have worked, while moving in patterns that defied tactical logic. And for the first time in 2 years, vexed ships began taking damage they couldn't immediately adapt to. Dr. Vasquez's voice cut through the battle chatter with barely contained excitement. It's working. Their adaptation protocols are overloading, trying to compensate for irrational behavior patterns. Admiral, I'm reading system failures across their lead elements, but the victory was short-lived. The Vex, for all their reliance on prediction, was still a formidable enemy. As their quantum computers began adapting to apparent randomness, they started landing devastating hits on Alliance vessels. The mining station Meridian shuddered under the impact of focused energy beams that cut through its hull like paper. Hull breaches on levels 7 through 12, reported the station's AI. Life support failing in sections C and D. Admiral, we're losing atmospheric integrity. Harrison's fighter swept past the observation deck, its improvised weapons blazing at a Vex destroyer that had moved too close to the station. Admiral, we need to talk. I think we found something, but we need to get close to their command ship to confirm it. As explosions lit up the void around them and the station's shields flickered under constant bombardment, Zara realized that humanity's gift wasn't just chaos and unpredictability, it was hope. The impossible hope that maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to win when every logical analysis said they should surrender. Tell me what you need, Captain, she said, watching her fleet of 47 ships dance their impossible dance against 300 Vex vessels. Trust, Harrison replied, and about 5 minutes of the craziest flying you've ever seen. Asterisk, the impossible victory. The command ship of the Vex Collective hung in space like a crystalline cathedral of death, its quantum processors calculating the final moves of what should have been a simple conquest. Admiral Zara watched through the static-filled view screen as Captain Harrison's Iron Wolf performed maneuvers that violated several laws of physics and at least 3 treaties regarding safe spaceflight. Dr. Vasquez Zara called to the human scientist who had somehow jury-rigged a quantum scanner from mining equipment and coffee makers. What exactly are we looking for? Elena's fingers flew over her improvised control panel, her eyes bright with the fever of discovery. During the first engagement, I noticed something. When we confused their prediction algorithms, there were nanosecond delays in their adaptation cycles, but more importantly, their quantum processors are networked across the entire fleet. Meaning what, exactly? General Vorthok demanded, his forearms working multiple weapon systems as Craxi destroyers provided covering fire for Harrison's suicidal approach, run. Meaning, Alina grinned with the terrifying joy of a human who had just figured out how to break something everyone said was unbreakable. That if we can introduce enough chaos into their network simultaneously, we might overload the entire system. Not just one ship, all of them. Sergeant Collins, who had somehow mounted a human weapon called a railgun to a Zentari fighter, chimed in over the cum. Doc, in simple terms, for those of us currently being shot at, we need to confuse every Vex ship at exactly the same moment. Create a feedback loop in their quantum network that cascades across their entire fleet. Captain Harrison's voice crackled through the increasingly damaged communication array, and I know just how to do it. Admiral, I need every ship in your fleet to do something completely insane in about 30 seconds. Think of the most ridiculous, impossible, tactically suicidal thing you can imagine. Then do it, Captain Zara replied, watching her tactical display as more Alliance ships disappeared in brilliant flashes. We're already doing impossible things. What could be more insane than our current situation? Trust me, Admiral, you haven't seen anything yet. What happened next would be studied in military academies for centuries. Assuming there would still be academies after the war, Harrison transmitted a set of coordinates to every surviving Alliance ship. Coordinates that placed them in a perfect sphere around the Vex fleet's center mass. Not a defensive formation or an attack pattern, but something that looked suspiciously like a three-dimensional flower. All ships, Zara broadcast, her voice carrying the calm authority of someone who had moved beyond fear into something approaching enlightenment. Assume Harrison formation. Ignore enemy fire. Ignore tactical doctrine. Ignore everything except reaching your assigned position. The Alliance fleet began moving into the impossible formation, and the Vex quantum computers went into overdrive trying to understand the pattern. Ships that should have been destroyed by concentrated fire somehow slipped through gaps that shouldn't have existed. Weapons that should have missed found their targets through ricochets and random. DEFLECTIONS. Dr. Vasquez monitored the enemy network, her scanner displaying patterns of quantum interference that grew stronger with each passing second. It's working. Their processors are dedicating more and more resources to prediction algorithms, trying to understand what we're doing. But Admiral, we need something more. Something so completely irrational that it breaks their ability to process it entirely. That's when Sergeant Collins had what would later be called either the stupidest or most brilliant idea in military history. "Hey Doc," he said, his railgun punching holes through a Vex fighter that had gotten too close. "What if we told them exactly what we're going to do?" The suggestion was so absurd that for a moment, even the sounds of battle seemed to pause. Military doctrine across every known species was built on deception, misdirection, and keeping your plan secret from the enemy. Sergeant Harrison said slowly, "That's either going to get us all killed faster than expected, or, Alina, could that actually work?" Dr. Vasquez's laugh was slightly unhinged, which was apparently normal for humans under extreme stress. "My God, yes. Their quantum computers are designed to predict hidden strategies and secret plans. But if we broadcast our intentions openly, honestly, and completely, they'll assume it's a deception and waste processing power looking for the real plan that doesn't exist." Zara finished, understanding blooming in her mind like a violent flower. Captain Harrison's voice carried new excitement. "Admiral, patch me through to the Vex command frequency. Let's have a little chat with our friends." What followed was the most polite, detailed, and honest description of battle plans ever transmitted during active combat. Harrison calmly explained that the Alliance fleet was forming a sphere to create overlapping fields of chaotic quantum interference. He described Dr. Vasquez's theory about feedback cascades. He even provided mathematical equations showing how they planned to overload the Vex network. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the Vex fleet. Their quantum processors, confronted with complete honesty when they expected deception, began creating increasingly complex models of what the humans really meant. Processing power that should have been used for adaptation and prediction was instead devoted to analyzing the truthful battle plan for hidden meanings that didn't exist. "Quantum cascade detected across the enemy network," Alina reported, her voice rising with excitement. Their adaptation cycles are slowing, weapon efficiency dropping. Admiral, I think we actually broke them, but the Vex weren't finished. As their quantum network began failing, individual ships fell back on combat protocols. Without their adaptive advantages, they were still a formidable enemy with superior numbers and firepower. The battle that followed was conventional in the most unconventional way possible. Alliance ships, having learned to fight like humans, pressed their attack with creativity and determination that their species had never shown before. Zentari pilots began using emotional responses instead of calculated maneuvers. Craxi warriors abandoned their rigid honor codes in favor of whatever worked. Even the civilian freighters, armed with improvised weapons, fought with the desperate innovation of cornered humans. Admiral Zara found herself commanding not just a fleet, but a revolution in military thinking. All ships continue Harrison formation, but adapt as needed. Fight like humans, make it up as you go along. The tide of battle shifted as the Vex fleet, suddenly vulnerable and predictable, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to follow any rules. Alliance ships that should have been destroyed somehow survived through impossible maneuvers. Weapons that should have missed struck their targets. Through sheer coincidence and stubborn determination, Captain Harrison's Iron Wolf led the final assault on the Vex command ship. Its improvised weapons carving through crystalline armor that had never been breached. This is for Earth, for the Alliance, and for everyone who said it couldn't be done. The command ship's destruction sent cascading failures through what remained of the Vex quantum network. Without their central coordination, the surviving enemy vessels began retreating in disorder, their perfect formation dissolving into chaotic flight as the last Vex ship vanished into hyperspace. Admiral Zara looked around her damaged command center and realized something profound had changed. The Alliance had won not through superior technology or numbers, but through the most human quality of all. The refusal to accept that victory was impossible. "Captain Harrison," she said, opening a channel to the Iron Wolf, "how do we thank you for teaching us to fight like humans?" Harrison's reply carried the tired satisfaction of someone who had just proved that impossible was just another word for challenging. "Admiral, you don't need to fight like humans. You need to fight like yourselves, but with the understanding that there's always another way, always another option, and always hope as long as you're willing to try something crazy." Dr. Vasquez added her own comment. "Besides, we didn't win this battle alone. We won it together, which is the most human thing of all, turning enemies into allies and making the impossible merely difficult." The victory at Meridian Station marked the beginning of the end for the Vex Collective. Word spread throughout the galaxy that the unstoppable enemy could be stopped, that their perfect technology could be defeated by imperfect determination. But more than that, it showed every species in the Alliance that sometimes the best solution to an impossible problem was to stop trying to be perfect and start trying to be creative. And in the years that followed, as humans gradually integrated into galactic civilization, they brought with them the most dangerous idea the universe had ever known. That victory was always possible as long as someone was crazy enough to try. The siege of Meridian Station was over. The real victory was just beginning.